Hello, hello, Digital Business Evolution. We are back with another incredible guest today. I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to need to buckle yourself up for this episode because this gal brings so much energy. I wouldn't be surprised if the internet actually breaks. So today we have the one and only Kat Norton, who's formerly, or better known as, I should say, Miss Excel. So since launching Miss Excel in June of 2020, Kat Norton has grown a seven-figure course sales business and community with over 1 million TikTok and Instagram followers through her viral Excel trick videos infused with creativity, music, and dance. You have definitely seen them. I promise if you were to scroll through and you would see them, you'd be like, yeah, I know who this girl is. Kat was recently awarded the Microsoft MVP award and was named one of the top 10 social media influencers of 2021 by Forbes. The list of accolades that this girl has, and in the short amount of time that she has done all of these things, is actually unbelievable. But I only can actually believe it because I've seen it happen. Kat and I actually personally met in 2020 when we were living the RV life. She was living a similar type of life at the time. And we crossed paths in none other than Arizona, of course, but she is from the East Coast too. So we instantly hit it off. And over the last 2 years, I can't believe it's been 2 years, we've not only spent New Year's Eve and Christmases and stuff together, but we've actually just been supporting each other's businesses. And it's absolutely insane what you have built. So I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. What an intro. Oh my gosh. If you can see me, I'm beaming over here.
Oh my God, you're adorable. Okay, so people see you now. You've got I don't even know how many millions of followers, 1 million on TikTok, something insane, almost 1 million on Instagram. And you are a quintessential overnight success story. Now, of course, it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen really fast. So take me back to your childhood bedroom where it all started.
Oh, you know where that's where all the magic begins, is in the childhood bedroom, just conjuring up my dreams. So I'll take you back to March of 2020 is when I first stopped traveling every week for work. So before this, I worked at a consulting firm doing securitization reviews for banks, which is absolutely as fun as it sounds.
I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Then on the side of my day job there, I was teaching Excel internally at the company. So I'd host these trainings. The company was flying me around teaching the employees Excel internally. And it was just something I love to do. It was like my passion project of my day job. And with the start of the pandemic, I had stopped traveling every week for work and found myself really back in my childhood bedroom. And this is where I started questioning things and being like, what am I doing with my life? What lights me up? And I dove into inner work. I was doing inner child work, shadow work, meditating, studying the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, studying the mind, how to reprogram limiting beliefs, and essentially just invested a ton of time and energy in myself because I was like, what else am I doing right now? We're
Were you
locked up
still
in our
working?
house.
Were you remote
Yes,
for your company? Okay, so you're still
remote.
working for the company and you just decide this is the perfect time for me to do some deep work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because normally with the traveling, it'd be an extra 15 hours a week with travel time. So now with that time back, I was like, oh, I'm done at 5:30. Now what do I do? So
Yeah.
I just invested it in me. And through that process, over a couple months, I really offloaded a lot of subconscious programming that I had that was keeping me playing it small. I grew up with this pretty severe anxiety disorder, hated any attention on me. So it was a lot of that type of stuff
Wow.
I was clearing out.
Yeah.
And and then I'll never forget, it was early June of 2020. I was on the phone with one of my best friends. She's a projector in human design. She's always seeing things. And we were talking about different side hustle ideas that I could do with my Excel knowledge because I was looking to create some kind of side business at the time. And I remember she looks at me and she was like, what if you put the Excel tips on TikTok? And I was like, TikTok, I'm 27 with a corporate job. I can't just start dancing on TikTok, right? But my gut, it was a wild feeling. My gut was just like, make the TikTok. And when she said it, I saw it. So it was almost like a lightning bolt hit me. I wish we had the conversation recorded because I remember glitching out verbally, like just like repeating myself and being like really glitchy. And when she said it, I saw the Excel screen above my head and me dancing below it. And that concept, that was my core concept when creating my initial videos. And I had this vision of it to that Drake song, the 2Z slide, left foot up, right foot slide to the left and the right function. And I was like, whoa. I wonder if this is even possible because I did not know how to video edit at the time. I'm like, how does one get an Excel screen above their head? I do not know. So I was just Googling around, trying to figure these things out. And I remember it was a Friday afternoon. My schedule gets cleared. It's like 3 o'clock. And I had some extra time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to attempt this video right now and just see what it looks like, see if I can even get an Excel screen over my head. And I made the first video and was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So I quick did my hair and makeup and I made a bunch more. And I started releasing one TikTok per day starting on June 7th of 2020. And then by my fourth video, it reached 100,000 views. So at this point, I'm like, whoa. And I didn't tell anybody I was doing this.
I was just going to ask you that.
My mother and my boyfriend, Mike. So literally that is the only people who knew what I was doing. I didn't tell any of my friends, any of my coworkers. And I was just silently posting these videos under the Miss Excel account name.
Question though, was your intention when you started this to actually, you said like build a side hustle, was your intention to one day I'm going to turn this into a business, I'll be able to leave my corporate job? Or was it like side hustle in the sense of kind of passion project, I have time and I love doing it?
It was more of the second, like passion project, side hustle. I didn't really have a vision for it when I started it because I honestly, my conscious mind did not know this type of stuff was possible, especially until I met you. You were one of my first expanders with this whole sphere. And so I really didn't understand you can make money on the internet. I was more so like, this seems like a fun creative outlet. I like music. I like dancing. I like Excel. Let's just shove it all in a video and see if it helps somebody.
And had you seen anyone do that before? Like that style of kind of green screen, the Excel board is over your head, you're dancing. You weren't even talking to camera.
Yeah. No talking to camera. Yeah. So at the time when I did it, there was nobody else out there even doing it.
Download that you had.
Yes. Sorry, the screen keeps freezing a little bit, but I think we're good. Yeah. So when I first looked around on TikTok to see if it was even a thing, there was no one talking about Excel on TikTok. And that's where I was like, okay, there may be an opportunity for this because I know there were YouTubers and there's like some world-class Excel YouTubers out there. And I hadn't seen anything more in the short form video space. So that's where when I had this vision of the Excel screen above my head, I'm like, I have to just try it. And then by the sixth video I put out, the CEO of an IT company reached out and was like, hey, I love your teaching style. I'm looking to create G Suite training videos, so the Google version of everything I was doing for students, parents, and teachers, because this when all the schools were going digital. And clearly I'm a Microsoft gal, but I figured I could learn the products in the meantime. So I formed an LLC, got a green screen, a ring light, and started creating all these videos and selling them back to this company at night after my day job. And I was still making the Miss Excel content because at this point I'm like, it's a great time. We're having fun out here. I'll just keep helping people with these Excel tips. And then within, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks, I went viral for the first time on TikTok. And I looked down at my phone and next thing you know, I had 100,000 followers.
But at this point, you're actually, let me move this. You're actually monetizing because you're working with another company, but you're not necessarily monetizing your content yet. And are you on Instagram or was this just TikTok?
Yeah, at this point, I think I made an Instagram about a week later. So it was like end of June, early July, because everything was going on in the news that TikTok might get banned in the US and all that. So I'm like, oh yeah, hedge my risk. Got to make an Instagram here.
Okay, so you're still creating content. And at what point does it start to turn into something where you're like, I'm going to create courses for the everyday person?
Yeah. So now this, if we fast forward now to around October of 2020, I had the Instagram account going, I had the TikTok account going, probably like a couple 100,000 followers on each platform. But at this point, I wasn't selling anything. And one of your coaching students, actually, Jake Kalfer, reached out to me and we ended up talking, and he did a couple sessions with me and he was like, listen, you need a product. I was like, oh, you are correct. So I took 2 weeks off from my day job and mapped out the most fun, entertaining Excel course I possibly could, just infusing it with creativity. Because after the style of content I had, I'm like, your girl cannot have a boring course. So I designed this Excel course, and then I filmed 100 videos for the training course. And then I edited all 100 videos and
Wow.
started selling it Black Friday of 2020 before it was done. It was in that pre-sale phase, which,
Sure.
as we know, it just gets you going. And so I started selling it Black Friday of 2020. And then 2 months later, by January, it was bringing in more passive income every month than my day job was from the courses. At
Oh,
that point, I was like, I would be dangerous with 40 hours back in my week. And I was like, this could really be a possibility. I could actually quit my job. And so mid-January was my birthday gift to myself. It was 2 days before my birthday, my 28th. I reached out to my managing director and put in my 2 weeks. And, it was a funny thing because half of my group knew that I had a TikTok, but they were just like, oh, cute, she has a TikTok. And then the other half had no idea. So I was starting
wow.
off all my conversations like, hey, Steve, do you know about me on the internet? You know, it was an interesting time to be alive. And by February 2nd, 2021 was my last day in corporate America. My first day as a full-time entrepreneur.
That's crazy. I mean, if we go back on the timeline, that's not even a year. That's not even a full year of when you had that first initial idea. Take me back for a second, because your content has shifted more
Yeah.
recently, which is, I love all of it. All of your content's incredible. At the beginning, you really stuck to this one sort of modality that you created, which was you dancing, not speaking to camera, not pointing necessarily at things, but having a green screen effect where you had Excel spreadsheets. You also always, and from what I've seen, lined up the music and the lyrics in the music to the thing that you were actually teaching, which was really cool. Were you a dancer? Were you an artist? Because you just are such a creative person.
I was never a dancer or an artist, but I feel like I probably should have been. Just growing up, I was always dancing around. I never had really formal training, minus a little Irish step dance back in my middle school days. Cannot
She
forget.
does have the best red hair in the world.
The little Irish step dance in there. And I remember growing up, I was definitely a creative child. I always like dreamed of having my dad build me a little art shed in the backyard to do arts and crafts in. So it was definitely, I was always kind of like looking for creative outlets, and really through corporate that got more stifled because there wasn't as much of a creative outlet for me at doing securitization reviews. So that's
Still
where
don't know what that is.
this was just yeah, this is just a fun, creative outlet for me. And I think tapping into that creative energy is what helped the business really flow.
Yeah. How long would it typically take you to go from ideation, picking out the song, doing the filming, editing, the whole process for like one particular video?
So this I typically separate out into separate days and do batch content. I believe it was you or Jen Kennedy taught me this trick about separating your days by masculine and feminine energy types on the
Sure.
days. I remember talking about this at a
Yep.
winery one time and I ran with that. So that is really what I've been doing. So I'll have days where I'm just in a creative feminine energy flowy state where I get the ideas. And then I have other days where I execute, I do all the hair and makeup, create like 10 videos at once. And then I'll have other days where I edit, or I've since hired an editor, which has been fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. So yeah, Brandon's amazing. So he does my editing now. So I'm able to pass that off. But that was my original flow where I separate them out by days.
And were you doing that every single week? So every week you're filming like 10 and then editing?
Probably like twice a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting when you have content that's something like Excel, where you're teaching skills, you're teaching functions of a program, not necessarily leaning on trends. You could probably batch a lot more than sometimes when coaches are just trying to batch out a bunch of trends. Because when we batch a trend, by the time we actually put it up, it's no longer a trend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your process of like picking the song and then thinking about, or do you first think about the content and then you pick the song? What's your whole process there?
I kind of do both. So on my creative days, it takes me about 2 to 3 hours to get into a real creative flow state. So I leave myself the space for that. And then
Wait. What do you do during that time?
Ooh.
How do you get into the creative flow state?
I meditate. I
Okay.
usually go out in nature. Maybe I'll do a little yoga. I'll dance around the house. I'll just try to stay in that flowy state and keep myself away from the to-do list
Got
and
it.
really just keep myself in a flowier state. And then I start scrolling the apps. And that's really where I get inspiration. So I'll scroll through trending songs. I'll scroll through trending things. And as I'm watching them, my brain will start connecting things. It'll be like, ooh, Ice Ice Baby, freeze your cells. Ooh, drop it like it's hot. Create a drop down menu, like little things I'll start seeing and it'll start clicking. So I usually have 3 running lists. I have a list of Excel tips that I want to get out, like things that I'm like, okay, this will be a hit. And then I have a list of songs and then I have a list where I've been able to match them. And then I'll kind of take a step back and be like, all right, what do we have going on here? And try to like meld them together, figure out which ones are better as talking videos. So I started sprinkling some of those in, see which ones are better with the dance videos, the transitions, like playing a boss, playing a coworker, I get the little actress stuff going on.
Yeah.
So really just kind of seeing like where they flow.
Yeah. And are you taking a lot of the feedback from your audience into consideration when making the next videos?
Yeah. So sometimes they'll ask questions on existing videos or want me to take something a step further. So I use that as a guideline to see, really, I'm here to provide a service, right? So I'm trying to just provide what will help the most people. So I'm able to kind of go in, go through my DMs. I get emails and things where I can kind of see, all right, what's trending? What do people need help with the most?
Yeah. I want to acknowledge you because I usually will see people on the internet, maybe they're entrepreneurs, content creators, we'll see people who are like the root of a trend, like they're the one who started a trend, but we don't necessarily personally know those people, Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, so on and so forth. You started a trend in content creation and I personally know you, and it's just so fascinating to see, because the way that you did it was not to follow a trend and it wasn't even to start a trend. You just got resourceful and you had this idea and you were like, I'm going to stand in front of a green piece of paper, or actually, no, I should say a tan wall. It was typically a tan wall, right? And I'm going to film this video where it's just like my chest up and I'm going to do these things. And now I see so many Excel and G Suite and all of these other programs like that. I see other content creators doing exactly what you do or what you did, what you started. And it's wild. What does it feel like to kind of be a leader in the space in that capacity where there are people literally copying what you're doing, not to rip you off, but to say what Kat does work, so I want to replicate it?
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome feeling. There's so many of us now too. I think there's like 40 of us, the different Excel influencers, and Microsoft actually built a community around us where they give us support and resources and we all meet each other. So it's been really cool to just kind of coordinate. I work with some of them as affiliates for me now, for ones who don't have their own courses yet. So we kind of found all different ways to work together.
That's incredible. It's such an interesting niche topic. It doesn't, with all due respect, seem like it would be fun. It doesn't seem like something that people would necessarily want to learn about. Or if they do, it's just, in my experience, it's kind of bang your head against the wall, Google everything you need, get super frustrated and look for stuff on the internet. So to have a creator like you who doesn't only just put out really fun free content that makes it exciting to learn about, you also have these courses. What does it look like when someone purchases a course from you? Is it all self-study? Are you in there live? What's the experience for the user?
Yeah. So I essentially equate it to like the encyclopedia of each of the different programs. So each of the courses comes with lifetime access. So a lot of people use them as ongoing resource guides, and it's essentially all self-study so people can go at their own pace. So it's typically 12 hours of content for each course. And I have people who will, block off Friday at 3 o'clock every day and take their course for an hour. Or I have other people, the Netflix binge watching type, that will, knock out 12 hours of Excel on a weekend and come back into work Monday knowing everything I know about Excel. And so it's really just a matter of people's learning styles and things like that. And then I built it in a way that it's in short kind of micro learning videos. Like every video is about 5 to 10 minutes and they're clearly labeled. So 3 weeks later, when you actually go to do a VLOOKUP, you can open up the VLOOKUP video, see a quick example and be able to apply it. So I kind of tried to make it like an ongoing reference guide.
Yeah. At what point did your family maybe stop saying you're crazy and think that, yeah, this is a great idea. You quit your corporate job. I mean, it's so insane that you just start filming these videos in your childhood bedroom. Next thing you know, you're like leaving your corporate job. And I think I was actually with you when you hit your first 7 figures in business, which is insane because it happened so quickly. So did you have any naysayers in your life, friends, family, whomever, coworkers? And if so, how did you navigate that? How did you handle it?
Yeah, I mean, early on, definitely there were a chunk of people that thought I was pretty crazy. I feel like too, it just is a matter of growing. There's always going to be a third of people that love you, a third hates you, and a third's in between. And it's kind of just the bigger you get, the bigger the pools get. And early on, I did have some naysayers, even like with the most love. My mom was so funny because it's just a different mindset that she grew up with, you know? And she's like, what are you going to do about health insurance? What are you going to do about benefits? You can't just quit your job, And I remember I told her, it was so funny. It was April of 2020. So before I even had the idea for Miss Excel, 2 months before, it was like 7 o'clock at night. We were in the living room and I went up to her and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be rich and famous soon. So I need you to prepare your nervous system for that. And she's like, go clean your room, Kathleen. What? And but like internally, like every cell in my body knew that something huge was coming. I just had no idea what it was. And then I've since retired my mom, which has been such a fun like thing for us. Very full circle. And now like to be able to give back to my family in that way after, growing it and then doing that has been a really good thing for all of our relationships.
Oh, that's incredible. I love hearing stuff like that. And you do such good things with your money and with your platform. Always. It's so much further and more beyond, than just the Excel stuff that you're teaching. So is it safe to assume that at a point now, these people are taking these courses, they're probably integrating it into their actual jobs? Are you having companies and schools reach out to you? Are you working with them? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we have a whole corporate side of the business that actually Mike has now come on full time and he runs that part. Yeah.
So Mike, for the record, is Kat's partner, longtime partner, and he was on the podcast. I believe it was episode 27. Mike Golub is the sales expert. So this is a power couple, to say the least. So Mike's now in your business full-time doing this. Incredible.
Yes.
Okay.
It is amazing. So Mike does mostly bulk corporate sales. And then we also do live virtual trainings. So he goes out and like books those. And then we have different schools that reach out, companies, all that.
Oh my gosh. Where do you feel like this is going? What is the next big thing that you want to get involved in? Where do you want to bring this? Or you're just there for the ride?
Yeah, I'm kind of just here for the ride because the crazy part is like I could have never predicted the majority of the things that happen to me. Like I could tell you, the next few months I have a campaign with Microsoft that's launching, or it's actually launching this week right now. So those will be out by the time this comes out. And working on, a Web3 project. And there's a bunch of little projects. We launched a newsletter. And then it's really just sky's the limit. I never know what's going to come through, but it's just a matter of, having the boundaries and listening to my body and being like, is this a yes or is this a no? And kind of just navigating.
Yeah. It's so incredible to watch. And you just do it with, I don't want to say such ease because you work really hard. I know you do. And I know you put in long hours and you were just doing 12-hour filming days and, with a company and, but you do it with such joy. How do you keep the joy and the fun and the play alive when you do have a lot of work to do?
I mean, I just love what I do. I only do things I love to do. And if there's any like task that starts to get like that was the video editing for me. All of a sudden it stopped getting less fun the more volume I had. And I was like, okay, like this is where I'll hire someone, and I kind of just navigated on like my funometer. And when things start lowering on the funometer, I just made that up right now. That's a good way to describe it. And so when things are low on the funometer, that is when we hire them out. So I've been kind of just navigating that. Like I'm in the process right now of interviewing social media managers that help me with content lining, because I have a presence now on pretty much all the platforms. So it's just a matter of getting out content on all the platforms. That's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, it really is. People don't realize that. So talking about the funometer for a second, because, there's this thin line where we want to discern between I don't want to do something it's not fun and maybe it's out of alignment, right? Or sometimes in business, I do believe that there are tasks that we have to do that aren't always fun. And maybe we're not in a place or a season at that moment where we can outsource those things. So are you ever doing things for or in the business that maybe aren't on the funometer, or does it dip low? And sort of how do you personally discern between this isn't fun, this is out of alignment, this is new and out of my comfort zone, and the latter?
Yeah. So, I mean, when times like that come up, it's really a matter too of doing little things to shift my vibration, because it's how we show up in that time. And I kind of recognize it too. Sometimes if I like have a meeting with someone, I'm like, oh, this meeting could have been an email. That's a more recent one I've been getting, like a little chirp in my brain. I'm like, this could have been an email. Like that's where I'm like, okay, I'm going to just invest some of my energy into them. I'm just going to bring so much energy into this conversation that it's going to uplift someone. Or, I try to just come up with like a different purpose at the end versus like, I have to fill out this form to get paid. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this because then I'm going to host a session. It's going to help so many people. I kind of have to like infuse it with the passion on the other side of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then if I'm having trouble getting there, I do little things to shift my vibration. So for example, I'll go out for a walk, I'll get a cup of coffee, I'll eat a piece of chocolate, like little things that I know will just like shift me back up for the moment. And then usually once I start talking to someone, like I'll get on one of those meetings and I'm like, oh, we just get hyped up. And then I'm like, oh, that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the chocolate part. Let's say that one again. So that's definitely one of the things that I do. I know you guys also relocated and you're not far away from us now. You're in Sedona, which is the most magical place. So talk me through moving to Sedona, because you were from New York, and what did that look like? How did you guys get there?
Yeah, so that was a wild, fun process. So we started off, I created the business in June of 2020. A few months in October of 2020, I was doing a Kundalini meditation over FaceTime with my friend and walked out and was just like, Michael, we don't have to live here anymore. And we're in our parents' houses. We're in our like childhood bedrooms. Mike's like working in like the corner of like a dresser. And I'm like, we're surrounded by stuff. I'm like, we don't have to be here. And he's like, what are you saying? And I was just like, we could go to Sedona right now. We could go anywhere, because we had seen some people on social media that we knew in Sedona. And I just kept feeling kind of called. I'm like, we could just rent a house for a month. And we felt so rebellious because his dad's our accountant. And he's like, that doesn't make financial sense. And I'm like, we're going, Andrew. We're going. And so we booked a house in Sedona for October. And I'll never forget, we got here, and on our first night, we got on the balcony of our house and we just saw the shooting star. And I was hysterical crying when I got to Sedona. Like my whole body was like, I need to be here. Like it was just such a grounding, good feeling. And we thrived. And as you know, Sedona's an energy vortex. So things just started happening really quickly for us. So like the largest deal of Mike's career just like fell on his lap out of thin air, and he closed it. And then I had all these business opportunities flowing, and we were like, whoa, this is kind of like living in the HOV lane over here. Like things are happening. This is good for us. So then we ended up extending another month, and it ended up being 16 months as digital nomads living all around the US, from, Sedona to Scottsdale, Austin, Texas, Miami, San Diego, Hawaii, just really bouncing around every month, switching locations. We'd rent a house, rent a car, buy things from that. Like it was a wild time, but we were having so much fun doing it. And then sure beat living in my parents' house all the time, so I'm like, this is at least, my own space. This is great. And then come early of this year, we were like, okay, it is time for us to get our own house. And we knew by then, we had so much clarity that it had to be Sedona. We just felt so called here, so grounded here. We made a bunch of friends. And as you know, the housing market in Sedona is quite wild, and it is just absurd. And only a few houses actually come on the market here. We only have about 10,000 residents. So it's very just small place. Most of the land is government owned. It's all national park. So there's not a lot of spots. So it's really, you got to wait for someone to give up their house and sell it. And we started working with a realtor who I had actually been meditating with for a month and did not realize, in my small, like 10-person meditation group through Instagram Live. And it was just Instagram Live accounts. So like, I saw her handle, but I didn't connect that was the Donna that I was talking to. So we had been doing Kundalini yoga together for a month, getting really spiritually aligned before I even met her. And then I started working with her, and within a few weeks, she calls us and is like, you need to come to this address at 2:15. I have your house. And I remember Mike was on a Zoom call. So I wrote on a piece of paper, like 2:15, cancel your meetings. And I found that post-it the other day crumpled up somewhere.
No way.
Yeah. And so he cancels his meetings. We get in the car, we get there. Donna knew us so well. She was like channeling in our houses. And we walk in this house, which is our current house. And I had seen it in my dreams before. So I had seen a really big kind of like 2-story window, which in Sedona, it's mostly ranch style houses. So it was tough to even find that. And I'd seen a balcony. I just didn't expect it to have a view like this. Like I didn't know this was possible. Like it was not even in my conscious mind. I'd never seen like 270-degree views. So at this point, I walk in the house and within like 2 steps, I'm like, I was like, this is the one I've been seeing. Oh my God. So now I'm like trying to keep it cool, right? So I'm like, we got the seller's realtor in here. Yeah, I'm like, and so I'm walking around the house, and at this point, I'm trying not to cry. I'm just like, okay, this is it. This is it. We will do anything in our power to get this house. I was literally like, this is it. So it was a wild situation where the seller's realtor accidentally gave the wrong address at a meeting a few hours earlier that day. She had was talking about her upcoming listings and accidentally gave the wrong address for our house. So we only had 3 people show up, where there should have been like 40 for this house, especially at the price it was at. So that was already like a weird energetic thing that happened to like help our odds. And then we ended up putting in an offer that night. The seller's realtor was like, push your best foot forward. Like you got one shot.
Yeah.
And you know me, I'm like, take all my money, remove all my protections. That's my baby. I don't care.
Yeah.
And Mike's like, are you sure you want to do that? Like removing the appraisal contingency. We removed the inspection contingency. But I knew the house was going to be clean because my dream designer, who I became friends with over the years in Sedona, I'd been dreaming of working with her. And actually a year before, she told me, we were sitting eating breakfast, and she asked me what my housing budget was going to be. And she looks at me and she's like, you should double that. And I was like, and I'm like, you know what? She's like, just manifest it. I was like, you're right, Stephanie. And then literally that's the exact dollar amount my house came out to.
Wow.
Was the number that she placed in my head. Yeah.
Okay. So I have to talk about this for a second because I can hear your energy is incredible. I love you to death. And you make everything sound really easy. You have a fabulous mindset and things energetically fall into place. And so I can hear the eye rolls from some of the listeners at like, but where have been the challenges? But Kat, what has been hard? But do you have limiting beliefs? Do you ever get stuck in a low where you have to go for a walk or eat chocolate to get yourself back in a high? When you were traveling as nomads, I mean, we were as well. You guys did Airbnb hopping as nomads. We did the RV, and that's the season that we met in. So I followed your journeys all along. I remember watching videos of you guys in a convertible with the giant roll of paper, like the green screen roll of paper sticking out like the roof of the car. Have you come up against any challenges over the past couple of years? Like, has it just been so easy?
I feel like in terms of challenges, it was always kind of like minor things, but I think it's just my mindset around it where I'm like, I know this is the best possible thing that is going to happen to me. And I think if I was trying to do this as my old self, like 3 years ago, I would have been a mess between all the social media and the negative comments and like moving around and doing all these things and my anxiety. But I think a big part of how I've been able to manage this with much more ease and grace than I thought was possible as an entrepreneur was because I put in that inner work on the front end. And I still we are never perfect. I'm always tuning myself up and I meditate every day and things, but I did a lot of subconscious overhauling before I started the business, which is why I think it can be a lot easier than my conscious mind had thought before going into this. I was like, I could never be an entrepreneur. That's so hard. That's so stressful. That's so much uncertainty. Like I remember I had all these limiting beliefs about it. Yeah. And then when I cleared those out within myself and actually tried it, by being in an energetic flow state and just really investing the time in me, the business has been a direct reflection of it. So whenever I want the business to grow, I work on me. I don't work on the business.
I love it.
Just one being. So by doing all the work on me, I'm always kind of helping myself. And if something ever comes up and I'm like, ooh, this doesn't feel good, I just work on it and I work on clearing it out. And then I see a direct reflection in the business. So it's kind of been just a game of like up leveling me and putting attention on me. And then I watch the business. And then, if something ever feels like scary in the business, I'm kind of like, well, the universe wouldn't give me anything I can't handle. And I just push myself.
Yeah.
To do it.
We always say our businesses are a reflection of us and they will only grow to the extent that we grow. And our mentor, James, who also is in Sedona and just an incredible human, he also adds to that, like your life and business will only grow to the extent of like the challenges and the problems that you're able and willing to manage. And so I love this kind of mindset shift. And standing on the outside, it's so easy for me to say, I'm so proud of you, not as like a condescending comment, but like, I'm so proud of you because and as someone who does the work, it's really hard. So when you say do the work, when you talk about subconscious reprogramming, even when you talk about your meditation, can you break some of that down just a little bit for the listeners? Because I feel like it's very easy for us to throw that stuff around, but what does that actually mean? Like the subconscious reprogramming. Do you like someone going into your brain with like a tool? Is this journaling? Is it a lot of crying? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. So for me, there's different methods that work for everybody. And I'll just place that out there before I dig into what I did, because some things will resonate and some things won't. So it's kind of like take what feels good for you and something that you can run with. Yeah. So for me, I call it my trifecta. I started off by digging into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza because I needed to get my conscious mind on board to understand that we are not the way we are and we can change the way we are. And we are not hardwired a particular way. And that there's neuroplasticity and the mind is completely malleable. So for me, I needed to understand that logically. I'm an Excel gal, very logical mind, like that whole think positive, everything great's going to happen. Like it sounds nice, but my little voice in my brain was like, really? Are you sure about that? So I dug into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and within the first 100 pages of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, one of those books, I literally had an entire epiphany and was like, whoa, I can actually change my mind. And when I change my mind, that will change what appears in my current reality. So once I kind of had that foundation going, I started doing I started doing To Be Magnetic by Lacey Phillips. So I did her program, which is a more structured way to do inner work and subconscious reprogramming. So essentially what that looked like was I'm in my childhood bedroom. I'm in my parents' house. It's like April 2020. I put in my headphones and I was doing mornings and nights because I was trying to get through all these iterations, because it was the way her inner child section was set up. It was like in different age groups, and you were supposed to pick which of the age groups stood out for you the most with most trauma. I had 5 out of 6, and you had to do each of those like 8 times. So I remember I built out a little calendar and I had to do 40
Was it on Excel spreadsheet?
Oh yeah. 40 iterations of inner child work. Wow. And you could double down. So I was doing every morning, every night, 20 minutes, headphones in, and it was binaural noises and prompts and journaling after, and just clearing. And essentially what you do is, if there's a triggering memory, for example, I had a memory of me crying in preschool, hugging my teddy bear. Later talked to my mom. She was like, Kathleen, that was 2 days out of 100. You only remember the 2, right? So I would envision myself happy in preschool, playing around, and that neutralizes the electromagnetic charge of the memory. So I essentially was going in there and reprogramming all these things that were holding me back very diligently for about 2 months, until I got out of inner child. I cleared out a lot of shadow stuff I had. I had a lot about like my skin and acne and hiding my face and things where I needed to clear that. And now I like openly talk about that. I just came from the dermatologist. So it's it's one of those things where I put a lot of work in on the front end, but I also am just so interested in this space that it's fun for me. Like, I think the brain is so cool. I study it for fun. So that was the second part of what I was doing. And the third part was I dove deep into Kundalini yoga, which is breath work, mantra, sound. It's all these different elements where for me, it's easier than just being like, close my eyes, try not to think of anything, Yeah. And instead you're doing movements, you're chanting, you have your eyes in a certain gaze. Like, there's a lot going on when you're doing Kundalini yoga. And so that helped me really tap in and constantly clearing things. Like, every day I'm doing an addiction meditation that helps break any addictions. And it's not really substance addiction. It's more so like, well, it can be, but for me, it's more so like addictive thoughts, negative thoughts, behaviors. I'm constantly clearing that out. I do a prosperity meditation every morning that I've been doing for years now. Mike and I together do that one. So I do like a breath of fire, like little things in a Kundalini yoga practice. So between getting my conscious mind on board with Dr. Joe Dispenza, then doing inner child work and subconscious clearing with Lacey Phillips. And then I went in and added the Kundalini yoga, which if anyone's looking for a resource for that, Choices and Outcomes on Instagram. You can meditate with me and my family. We're all in there now. My mom, my dad, Mike, we all meditate with my friend Anna on Choices and Outcomes on Instagram. She has like a daily live medis. So that's like our daily practice. And I kind of just flowed with that throughout the business. And I slowed down as the business started growing going. And then I like kind of pick up where I see things like behaviors and things where I'm like, that's not me. Or if I have a behavior or something where I'm like, where did I pick that up from? I'm
Yeah.
able to kind of go in there now. It's all just a matter of tools, and it's finding the
Yeah.
tools that work for you and just understanding that there are tools out there and you don't have to be the way you currently are. And most of us aren't ever really at our highest self. There's always more to go. So it's really just kind of getting clear on what our highest self is, and then just knowing what tools work for us as individuals.
Like snaps to all of it. It's so good. And I believe as I've gotten older, 38 now, I've just been accumulating tools, and I've been putting these new tools and different tools into my toolbox and just being more open to what these tools could be and testing and trying. And like you said before, it's like, take what you want and leave the rest without judgment. And so the faster we can like lower the guard and remove the ego to try the things, whether you like them in the moment or you don't, you still get to keep them in your toolbox, and you never know when you might circle back and pull them out, because we go through seasons in our life and our business. I mean, how many of us have gone through a season where we journal every single day, and then all of a sudden you go it's like the gym, you go 6 months without showing up and you're like, well, that was weird. I should probably get back to the gym. Right. So it's really important to have these tools. When you started with Kundalini, was it all virtual? Because that was during pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did it once when it was 2019. I went to Morocco on a Kundalini yoga retreat. And that was the first time I'd ever tried it with my best friend, Anna, who has since gone on to become trained and become a teacher of it. It was very inspirational for both of us. And it's really a technology. It's a technology to elevate your energetic field. So like when people ask how are you so happy all the time? A lot of it is because I'm just working on the energy field and getting out things that don't belong and kind of just keeping that high vibrational state. So the Kundalini though, I do mostly virtually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so interesting. I could literally talk to you all day, even as friends. I'm like, before we get into a couple final questions, I want to make sure no one tunes out or turns off, which I know they wouldn't. So right now, before they do, where could people find you? What are you working on? What's exciting? How can they work with you? And what do they need to know?
Yeah. So I am miss.excel, miss.excel on TikTok, on Instagram. Also have a Twitter, a LinkedIn. We're growing on all the platforms now, Facebook. And then my website is miss-excel.com. If you're interested in courses or learning, I have courses in Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, OneNote, Teams, Google Sheets, a kids course, all the things.
So good. Oh my goodness. It's so good. Okay. We'll wrap it with a couple rapid fire questions. You ready?
Oh yeah. Hit me with it.
What are you currently reading or listening to?
I would say reading is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's
one of my favorites.
Working my way through. It's one of those ones I pick up, put down, because his work is intense. But I've been watching Rewired by Dr. Joe Dispenza on Gaia. I just discovered this. This is the best. It's
the best. We bought our high level mastermind clients a year of Gaia last year as one of their enrollment gifts, because I was like, you have to watch Rewired. It's so good. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe's Becoming Supernatural was the first Dr. Joe book that I read before I blew through all of them. So it's the one that I gift to everybody when I'm like, you don't know who Joe Dispenza is yet? Oh my gosh, read this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Are you going to go to one of his events one day?
It's the goal. Yes.
They just sell out so fast. Dr. D, if you're listening to this, maybe you could save some tickets for us. Thanks.
Dr. D.
Oh my goodness. When you were a kid, what'd you want to be when you grew up?
Rock star.
Oh, well, you're doing it.
Yeah. Had some conditioning go on there that kind of put me on a different path, but we're back, baby. We're back.
Yeah, for sure. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie, I don't know why this is coming straight through right now, is The Sound of Music from when I was a kid, because I just feel the need to run through the hills like she does in the movie. And I'm going to Europe in a few weeks, and that's the plan. Austria's a little different than the Scottish Highlands, but I've watched enough Outlander. I got to get out there. I just got to run through the hills.
That makes so much sense. I wasn't sure what you were going to go with. It could have been something super intense, or it could have been like a chick flick. And no, The Sound of Music. Okay. I love it. It's so good. What has been one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given?
Don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with in that area. So it's really learning to kind of take advice where it comes from and thank thank them, be respectful, but not let that control your day to day. Because especially as you grow a business, you're going to get a lot of opinions from people who probably don't have their own business. So that's
Mm,
where it's really a matter of taking the opinions and working with them in a way that works best for you.
I love that. Two more. If I were to write you a check tomorrow for $50,000 that you had to invest back into the business, how would you allocate it?
Ooh, amazing question.
Mm.
I would say definitely more towards hiring out more with like the social media piece, the video editing, just kind of expanding that more. I'd be able to whip out more courses more quickly because I'd have a full-time video editor. So that would be, so all my employees right now are part-time. So probably making
Yeah.
some of them full-time.
Cool. I love that. And then, like we said before, we both know that our businesses grow to the extent that we grow. And that's why we named the entire company Digital Business Evolution, because we're always evolving and growing. So, what is your next personal or business evolution?
I would say from a personal perspective, I'm going to Scotland in about a month to go on a Kundalini yoga retreat with some of my teachers' teachers. So I've been
Wow.
I'm trying to level up to that level. I'm going with a lot of teachers and just, getting in with my practice and really learning more energetic techniques that I could apply to business. I think that's where I thrive is when I'm taking those energetic techniques, applying them to me to up level me. And then that in turn up levels the business.
It's so good. Oh, Kat, thank you so much for being on. I'm so grateful for you. I can't wait to come back and see you in just like
Yes,
3 weeks. I'll be able to squeeze
I
you in
know.
person. I feel like it's been so long, and Mike as well. So as always, if you love this episode, please, please, please take a screenshot, share it out on socials, tag Kat at miss.xl, tag me. I am Jessica DeRose. It is the best gift that you can give back to our guests is to let them know how they've impacted your life. And I know, Kat, you certainly have impacted mine, shown me what's possible and just stretched the imagination of what someone could do and how we get to show up in this world with just such beautiful energy. So I thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too. This was so fun.
Yeah. And as always, cheers to your next evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.